With YouTube attacking alternative media, please consider supporting the channel via Patreon for just $1 per month. Link below. Now, speaking of sequels, this is an interesting one here. So with the Disney Fox merger, well, not really merger, the buyout, the $50 billion buyout that is just insane to think of. My brain melts when I try to just run through the logistics in my mind of the whole situation. There's been one thing on everyone's mind since the announcement. Would we see X-Men or Fantastic Four or Deadpool or whatever go into the MCU? And everyone's been looking to Kevin Feige like, yo, dog, what up, dog? What you thinking, man? Come on, Feige. Come on, give me an answer. Give me an answer. And Feige is saying here that it's not going to affect the films in progress, which does make sense given where things are with the franchise right now. As the first, do you call it the first phase? I'm not entirely too sure. As the first 10 years, the first decade winds itself down, or I should say leads to the ultimate climax. Going into the future is going to be a question. And we know that Marvel wants to spend a fair amount of time going into the cosmic. Hence why James Gunn is coming on as essentially a story producer to kind of architect or be a cartographer to map out the path of the next few years, focusing on some of the more cosmic characters, probably because they wanted to, bring in younger actors or new actors and get them on the cheap. Now, it goes on to say here that Feige confirms that Marvel Studios won't integrate the X-Men or Fantastic Four in any of their announced movies. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has thrived by turning B-list comic characters into worldwide brands, but they may soon have the ability to introduce some of their biggest names. Disney agreed to buy Fox at the end of last year, a deal that will give Marvel Studios access to foundational pieces of Marvel Comics. Considering the magnitude of the deal, it must still go through a regulatory process to be approved that may not happen until next year. And yeah, this is something I don't think anyone has really questioned at this point. Is like, we know that they announced it at the end of 2017, but it's going to take about 2 years for the deal to come through. Bob Iger has already said he's extending out his contract from 2019 to 2021 to make sure the deal goes through just fine. And I'm pretty sure that that right now Fox is going to be tailoring all of its comic products going forward to lead into the MCU, so the legacy remains intact. I think that's what they're doing. When it comes to Star Wars, Disney straight up, killed off the EU, essentially, and now they're bringing it back piecemeal, which is just kind of stupid and pissing off a lot of fans. But that being said, it says Marvel Studios will next release Black Panther before Avengers Infinity War, Ant-Man and the Wasp. They also have Captain Marvel, Avengers 4, and the untitled Spider-Man Homecoming sequel coming in 2019. So even before this thing gets off the plate, even this right here is not talking about Guardians of the Galaxy 3 coming in May of 2020, right? And whatever films are coming past that, because there's already been kind of a list that's been released, so to speak. So ultimately what I'm thinking here is we won't even remotely see any of the X-Men crossover to the MCU until post Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. That's what I'm thinking right now. Now, according to Feige, he spoke at a press junket for Black Panther and was asked about the looming deal and the impact it will have on the MCU. Feige said that he had no prior knowledge to the deal taking place. Additionally, he confirmed that they won't be changing their next 6 films to start the integration process. Now, okay, well, let's look at the quote here. He says here, "The truth of the matter, as I understand it, is the deal has to be figured out. There's been no communication. We're not thinking about it. We're focusing on everything we've already announced. If and when the deal actually happens, we'll start to think more about it. Until then, we have a lot to do. It would be years away. We've announced everything through 2019, so none of those would be adjusted." Obviously referring to the idea of pushing any films back or moving any films out of the way in order to open up for the X-Men franchise or Fantastic Four. That, I would say, is probably going to be a thing. But we're hearing lots of rumors that Avengers 4 is going to be like a time travel film, right? We're hearing a lot of rumors about that because they're going to get their hands on the Time Stone. We've seen some behind-the-scenes shots come out of Thor wearing the same outfit he was wearing at the end of Avengers, the first movie, when they were at the park and he took the Tesseract back to Asgard with Loki. We know about that. Like, that's already been out there. So if they go back in time, if they're altering time and they're whatever, they could find a way to start sneaking in some Easter eggs that would then lead into what's coming next, right? Kind of like in Captain America Civil War when they're talking to the one, Hydra agent, and he mentions Dr. Stephen Strange. So, like they could just kind of pepper it in there at some point in time. But ultimately, I don't think they're going to do anything until after at least, we're not going to see anything for certain until probably next year in terms of announcements, or we're not going to get anything until probably 2020 as just pure confirmation. But in the meantime, it'll be a lot of fun to speculate, especially given how Deadpool and X-Men Dark Phoenix do this year. Gambit has been delayed again, or not delayed again, but its production start date was supposed to start in March. It's been pulled back now, whether it's trying to find a new director. So, and I think Gambit ultimately, because it hasn't shot yet, is still going to be tailoring itself to tie into the larger MCU. I really do think that's what they're trying to do at this point, because it just feels like that is the best course of action. If you make it a thing, if you start building towards that, then the integration will be a lot easier. And if you're trying to build a franchise off of Gambit, the worst thing you could do at this point would be to try to separate yourself from the larger MCU. At least run parallel with what Sony's doing. It might stand a better chance if that's what they want, but at the same time, who knows?